Medfit Rehab founder Joanne James is a medical exercise specialist. Medfit Rehab, restoring strength and movement, making a difference in people's lives. 647-259-5481. Columbus Center, Athletic Department, Dufferin and Lawrence, medfitrehab.com. If you've been diagnosed with a chronic ailment, diabetes, osteoporosis, cardiovascular cancer, Joanne James, medical exercise specialist for over 25 years, is your answer. Joanne and her hands-on team of professionals will design a customized medically based exercise program for you. Medfit Rehab provides the best in post-rehab functional conditioning programs. Medfit Rehab, Columbus Center, Athletic Department, Dufferin and Lawrence, 647-259-5841, medfitrehab.com. Hi, Joanne. How are you this morning?
I'm great, Zelda. How are you?
Nice. Thank you very much. Had a very brief but nice holiday. Thank you for asking. Okay.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed.
Okay. So is there an exercise for fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome? It seems to me that people are so exhausted from this illness that I can't even imagine them getting up to work out. What does Medfit do?
Oh. Okay, they can do, and we've worked with many people with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. Each person is unique and different in terms of the level and the intensity of the chronic fatigue that they have. Just to briefly describe, fibromyalgia tends to make you feel exhausted all the time, and it causes generally pain all over the body. And there's a whole host of symptoms that come along with that exhaustion. But it's considered a chronic condition, and it varies from person to person, and it's called a syndrome because there's very set problems that come along with it. Now, chronic fatigue, just slightly different. That's more extreme fatigue. You have flu-like symptoms. You feel run down all the time. It's hard to stay on top of your daily responsibilities because you just feel like you've had it. And again, the levels vary from being able to function and do some stuff to being absolutely bedridden and sleeping for days at a time. So that's a slight difference between both of them. And maybe the bigger difference with chronic fatigue is that it's kind of linked to the Epstein-Barr and the Lyme's disease family and some other things. So you've asked a question about these people are experiencing such fatigue and so much pain and discomfort. What can they do? Well, Zelda, here's a very interesting thing you should know.
Okay, Joanne, we're having a little trouble hearing you. Are you in a? I'm in a
quiet room.
Really?
Can you hear me now?
I hear you, but it's just not as clear as it was a few minutes ago. Keep talking. Maybe it'll come back, hopefully.
Okay.
There you go. We're okay now.
Great.
Okay.
You asked a great question. Well, what can these people do? Can they exercise? Is there anything that they can do? Yes, there is things that they can do. But you also have to understand that when you exercise, depending on the intensity and the level of exercise, it can really damage people. You can make them feel worse by all means. But here's a very interesting fact to know. When people exercise that have chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia, in the short term, they may feel worse. But if they don't exercise, lack of exercise will, in the long run, they'll be more severe. They're going to have more health problems. So in short, they can't afford not to exercise. They have to exercise even though they're feeling exhaustion and pain. It's what they do that's going to make a difference. And most of the movements and exercises that they do, one has to be controlled, and they need to work with somebody. I think it's very difficult for them to really figure out what works for them and what doesn't work for them. It's really easier if they work with somebody. But most of the times, the exercises have to be gentle and non-impact oriented.
Well, I think that it's difficult to get yourself moving unless you have guidance, proper guidance, because you just don't have any incentive to move forward. So we really need your team and yourself to pull us up and get us moving.
Well, it's again, I totally agree, because we found that when we worked with people and helped them understand what they were experiencing and then guided them in terms of the exercises they could do and validate how they're feeling, try to work within that, they did a lot better. Sometimes people feel really good that day, so they go out there and they go, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. and then they're totally wasted and wiped out for the next several days.
Right.
So they need guidance to know that even though you have good days when you're feeling good and you feel like you've recovered from this syndrome, that doesn't mean you go out there and you do the crazy stuff. You have to stay within a range of movement and activity so that you don't overdo it, but that you don't underdo it as well. And so I think we're pretty good at helping people find that little middle ground that helps them, gives them the incentive, encouragement to do some movement, but at the same time they don't overdo it and injure themselves and or just put themselves out of commission for several days.
We need to get their enthusiasm to a degree where they'll make that call and they're going to do the work that needs to be done, as you said, gently, but still, is it going to help in the long run? Do you think you can balance out the fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome?
Well, it's very difficult to be able to do that because of each individual situation. And at this stage of the game, there's no cure for it. I mean, some people take certain medications and eat certain foods, et cetera, but there's really no cure for it. You have to find that balance to work with it as best you can. But again, as I said earlier, if the person does not do any form of exercise at all, it becomes worse. It becomes more severe, and you end up having all kinds of other health issues related to lack of exercise, compounded by the fibromyalgia or the chronic fatigue.
Okay, well, I know a few people that have fibromyalgia, and they continue to do their job. But if you touch them, if you touch their shoulder or anything like that, they wince in pain. I don't know what exercise, if any, they are doing. They're just managing to get through the days.
Well, somebody like that I might recommend or suggest working in the pool. It has to be sort of more of a heated pool that's more comfortable, whereas the water is more gentle, it's more buoyant. Again, if you notice, if you touch that person, they wince. But you have other people that, they can function, but they're just fatigued. So you see, there's such varying levels that as we talk to them, we're able to suggest, okay, let's go into the pool, let's do some of this. Other people, no, they don't want the pool, but we can give them something else that they can do.
Okay, so well, it's a fabulous topic because it affects a lot of people, and we'll talk more about this and other issues tomorrow. Thank you, Joanne, for being with us. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you, Zelda. My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Joanne James, founder and medical exercise specialist of Medfit Rehab, will improve your overall health through medical exercise. Contact Joanne James, 647-259-5481, Columbus Center Athletic Department, Dufferin and Lawrence, medfitrehab.com.